Welcome to the Everything Yachting YouTube channel. Our goal is to help yacht buyers, yacht owners, and yacht sellers through interesting, educational, and informative discussions on topics that are anything and everything yachting related. All right, welcome to Everything Yachting, where today I'm with my special guest, Mr. Tom. He's the owner and longtime Marlow family member. He's got a 2006 53C. Her name is Namaste. And I just want to ask, let's start with, how did you end up in a Marlow Explorer?
Well, went out and started looking at different vessels. We wanted something that we could cruise. And it just, I'd always looked at the Marlows, always liked the Marlows. And this one came up available through AMI. And we ended up purchasing it through AMI.
AMI Kids is a donation service where, for various reasons, somebody may choose to sell a yacht on the open market or donate to a charity for good causes, some sort of tax discount, and then the purchaser has an option to buy that. I'm going to oversimplify it and call it like a pre-approved financing package, where you kind of put down a third, you finance a third, and then you balloon a third at the end of a 3-year period. How long have you owned the boat?
This is our third year.
This is your third year. And ownership experience from 0 to 10, how's it been? 10 being the best.
Well, it's been fantastic.
Okay.
We've really enjoyed the boat. We've got quite a bit of cruising in her already. We took my fiance at the time, she was still working. I was looking for a project, something to do. I had recently kind of semi-retired and was looking for a project, something to keep me busy while she finished off her working career. And we started looking for a boat because we knew we wanted to go cruising. And so we found this one, closed on it, and then I started making her our own. We went and did quite a bit of refit on this boat that made it the way that we wanted to use the boat.
And that's really why we're here today. This is a very special Marlow Explorer, unlike any that I've been on before from the power management side. That's what I wanted Tom to talk to you about. Clearly he's a smart gentleman who came from somewhere that allowed you to figure out maybe a better way to design a boat for you. So the goal was, buy a boat that will be a legacy timepiece, meaning if I put dollars into it, it's going to stick around for a long time, and I'm going to likely get those dollars back out. Maybe something that is timeless in design, so if I own it for 1 year, 10 years, or 20 years, I'm still going to like it because the things around it don't generally change. So what was the first big upgrade you did? So you bought a used Marlow Explorer,
we bought a used,
surveyed and sea trialed it. And
correct.
Day one big upgrade started with what?
And as you said, the boat was a one-owner boat prior, and the gentleman had loved the boat. This boat has gone numerous back and forth between New England and Marathon, and so we knew it was a great boat. So we just I wanted to bring it up with the latest tech. My background is engineering, and so my plan on whatever boat that we had bought was I was going to do this too. But
when you say tech, most of my listeners are going to think, okay, you replaced the nav screens.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to deep dive here.
Yeah. So when we replaced the tech, that means we pretty much stripped out all the legacy type of services regarding your AGM batteries, the old converters, the old inverters, everything out of that. And we went with all brand new Victron inverters. So this boat is a totally inverted boat. So this boat stays inverted 24/7.
All right, I'm going to pause and just oversimplify that. You buy a standard boat. She may or may not have a generator, but she's likely going to have a power cord. Okay, and that power cord, when you plug into the shore, gives you power for your systems. Some boats, you unplug that and go boating. Those systems won't work at sea. Every Marlow Explorer is going to come with a generator and an inverter, so that if you unplug from the shore, you can either run off your batteries for a period of time for the systems that will be powered off that battery supply bank, or you run a generator, which then will recharge those batteries, and the generator can power everything or recharge the batteries and have things run off those batteries. So to oversimplify, you have a shore side, you have a generator side, you have a battery side. Now, one more step on top of that is a lot of our boats, or all of our boats, will also have an alternator that charges your batteries off of your engines when they're running. The determining factor is how much am I getting, what am I trying to use. So from that standard setup, okay, you then changed what?
It all.
Right.
So we went with we ended up going with the Victron system. Victron is the top of the line as far as inverters, their chargers. So everything on this boat is Victron, even down to the batteries, which are lithium ion, or they're the lithium iron phosphate. So we have 1,000 amp hours of lithium on board. So why did we go with the lithium? Well, if you look at your AGMs, say if I had, which I think it was right around, I had about 1,000 amp hours of AGMs on board originally. But you can only discharge those batteries down to 50%. Right. If you go past 50%, you're going to destroy the battery, or you start to you degrade the battery. With the lithium, you can take it all the way down. You can take it down into the single digits. We don't. We typically will take ours down, probably let's call it 20%.
So I want to pause and oversimplify. I have a bucket with energy in it. I can only use 50% of that energy before I have to refill the bucket, or I could use 80% of that energy before I refill the bucket, and I'm not damaging the bucket or their associated components to that. Did you change the size of your bucket?
We went with the 1,000 amp hours again with the lithium.
So same size bucket.
Same size bucket. And then we also have since the lithium were smaller in footprint, we were able to have another area if we ever wanted to expand. We have another space for another 1,000 amp hours that we could
So you could put a second bucket on the boat if you wanted to. Did you save any weight in doing this?
Correct. Yes, we did. We saved a tremendous amount of weight. Especially when you start taking off all the old legacy equipment, with the converters and the old inverters, because
everything was bigger.
Oh, everything was much bigger. I think the converter alone was like 350 or 400 pounds once you got the bracketing and all that in.
Now, if you bought a new converter today versus one 18 years old, I'm sure it would likely be lighter weight to that, but then the Victron system's even smaller and lighter weight than that.
Yeah, than the inverter system that we had to take out, and plus taking all the old battery chargers off, all the old inverter, or all the old 12 volt to 24 volt, or 24 volt to 12 volt, all those systems came off, and everything was put on new. And what this enabled us to do was, when we travel, we're not a marina to marina type people.
Okay.
We like being out on the hook, and because we'll take this boat, we'll cruise the Bahamas in it, and then this last year we took it all the way up to Cape Cod, and going up to Cape Cod wasn't typical for us, because we were stopping every night, staying in a marina, getting up, and then running the next day.
Right.
And then once we got up to Nantucket, we did more marinas this time than what we do in the Bahamas. In the Bahamas, we typically are on the hook. I think the last time we went down, we were down for roughly 2 months, and we were on a dock 4 nights.
4 nights out of 2 months. That saved you a lot of money on dockage, but that probably wasn't the reason why you did it.
No, because we like being out at, especially inside the park there, once you get into the Exumas, that's where we like to be.
Right.
And
me too. It's my favorite spot.
Right. And it's, we're just not marina people. That's just not who we are.
If you've never gone yachting before, okay, but you want to, you run your business, and one day you're going to sell and you're going to go yachting, think about it like this. Do you want to go camping at a KOA with 100 RVs all around you and the conveniences of a shower and a hookup? Or do you want to go camping in the middle of Yellowstone with all the wildlife around you? That's really how different it is being at a marina versus being anchored out in the middle of your destination of choice.
And taking your home in every luxury
Correct.
that you have. So this boat we have, we run the Starlink, so we're always connected.
Internet, right? It
Yeah.
works better than my home.
Yeah.
We were running at my truck on the way over here in the dashboard, and I have better internet service driving on a cloudy day than I do at my house with my Starlink.
Yeah, I've never had issues as far as cloud cover, like the old satellite systems you would have for your home. I've never had an issue like that. We've always had service.
Right. We're always making Starlink commercials on
Yeah, I
yachts.
don't know why.
It's because the CEOs that are afraid to leave the desk now can go boating, and we're telling people who don't know about it yet.
Right.
You can still work from your boat. You can have video calls from your yacht, thanks to Elon and Starlink.
Yeah, it's an amazing system, which keeps the boat connected 24/7 also. So, like if I'm, we keep the boat in Fort Lauderdale. My home is up in the Tampa Bay market, and I can pull this boat up with the systems that we have on because of the Victron system, and I can pull it up on my phone, and it'll tell me where the boat is at, what the batteries are charged, what my solar system is producing, if are we using the shore power at all, because I can dictate that it use the solar over the shore power. And I mean, it'll also tell me my refrigerator temperatures, my freezer temperatures.
Wow, it's like a smart home.
Yeah, it tells me everything, and I don't have to pay a monthly subscription fee for any of that.
Right.
It's all part of Victron.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's really, and also our cameras and everything on the boat also. So I can pull up the boat and see if anybody's on it, if everything is good, if I've got people showing up to do work on the boat. So that's why, and I can do this anywhere in the world with the boat.
Wow, that's impressive. What's the top 3 things that Victron has changed on this boat that you would never live without again? That's been so important. Is that remote dialing or that camera?
That's great. Always being able to have eyes on your boat and knowing that the systems are working. If someone goes down, and like I've got someone working on the boat, they're changing oil or something on the boat, and they hit the bilge pump switch, it sends me an email instantly, letting me know that
text, email, call, or only email. How does that work?
I think you can set it up different
it?
ways. I think you can set it up different ways. I've just got it as an email. So I think the best thing I love about this boat is when we leave going anywhere, all I do is fire up the engines, fire up my electronics, switch off the shore power, disconnect, reel it in, and we're gone. I don't have to start a generator. I don't have to.
You have to start a generator for your air conditioner though, right?
Nope.
How come? How's that possible?
This system we've got on this boat, we run 16 kW, which is enough to run everything on this boat.
Okay.
Now we did leave room to add another 8 kW because they come in 8 kW segments, and we have enough room to add another one. We have enough room to add a few actually, but 24 kW would be all you would ever need. But so when we leave, with AC going, lights going, stove, she'd be cooking. We've got, we did update all our refrigeration and freezers on this boat. And as we go, we literally just disconnect the cable and we're gone. So all that cable was doing, that shore power, was just charging our batteries this whole time. And then we have this 2,000 watts of solar on top, and all that doing is just charging our batteries. So the boat is constantly just running off our batteries.
That's awesome.
And everything is being inverted from there.
That's awesome. Can we talk ballpark total cost to do this, and then maybe think about the total savings on a annual basis?
Well, the retrofitting, and I think with what we did just on we did so many things. So we did all new electronics too. I did all new Garmin's, top and bottom.
Let's try to carve that out.
Yeah,
Okay. Most people will say, okay, I could do all new electronics for 6K or 10K a screen, depending upon how big I go. I talk to people about when you upgrade a station, you're probably going to be in the $50,000 range, depending upon how much stuff you do. So let's take all that out, okay? Because you might buy a boat that's 3 years old that has great Garmin's, but you still want to do this.
Right. And the Garmin's all work with the Victron too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so they all interconnect.
Okay.
I have hard receipts, but we did so many different things. I would think that if I was to do this again, and I know the battery pricing has come down since I did it, And what's great, again, I did this 2 years ago, and our equipment is still identical to what they're offering today. It's not like they've offered brand new equipment that's antiquated ours. It's still all the same. I would say you could probably do it for probably somewhere around 80,000.
Okay. So 80,000 spent gives you a lot of tech.
Right.
Gives you ability to not burn fuel or start a generator and run off the batteries for a while. I'm sure it extends your off-grid usage. So with the solar and the batteries and no generator anchored out, how long until you need to fire up a Jenny? And with 2 people aboard, you're like your last big trip in the summertime in the Bahamas, right? So
two people aboard. If you're not using the AC, you don't need to use the generator.
Wow, so solar will replenish itself.
Solar will completely regenerate you.
And that's how many refrigerators ballpark?
We have the 4-drawer, we have two 2-drawer refrigerators, we have a 2-drawer freezer, and then we have a deep freeze down in the lazarette.
Okay, and you've got
and then we've got a wine cellar, and I think that's it.
Okay, you got an electric cooktop.
Correct.
Do you have an oven?
No, we have yes, we
You have a plug-in oven on top.
We have a plug-in oven on top, but we have a convection microwave type thing.
And you've got an electric grill up top?
Yes.
So all of that can be solar powered.
Correct.
Wow, indefinitely.
Yeah.
How about the water maker? Will it power the water maker?
Yeah.
Wow, so you can truly live anchored out off-grid with solar power, not burning diesel.
Correct.
Unless you want to start the air conditioners.
Yeah, and the ACs, we run this has a newer...
So let me pause for a second. That means pretty much all summer in New England, if you're going to be out during the day having fun, the windows will likely be open at night and you don't need to fire up the air conditioning. In Florida, I would say most of the winter is like that. But the summertime, in my life, the air conditioners run 24/7.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about that. We're in the Bahamas, it's summertime, it's 105 degrees out. How does that load change? Now I can't just rely on the sun. I have to have a generator running for how much time?
If we're just anchored off, not moving the boat, if we're just anchored up, not moving the boat, I typically will turn the generator on for probably about 1.5 to 2 hours a day.
Wow, that's less than I would have told you if you didn't have this whole entire system running off of it. I would usually tell somebody 4 hours to recharge batteries and make hot water and cook with a legacy type system, I guess is what I would say. And then I would say you're going to be running your generator while you want to have air conditioning, because there is no plan B, or let's just call this plan A, because you chose to make this plan A.
Right. So yeah, and now if we're running the boat, we have 2 alternators on our engines.
So why would that be different? I'm consuming fuel for propulsion, and with that I move, but I also get, what do I get?
So our 2, they're rated at 4,800 watts each unit.
Okay.
So we've got over 9,000 watts of power coming right from those engines.
Okay.
So it's kind of like an emergency backup for, well, it's not even your backup. When you're moving the boat, that's what's charging the batteries. So wherever we get to, our batteries are full.
So if I left with semi-depleted batteries, let's just pretend it's a cloudy day, I've got no solar backup.
Yep.
I'm down to 30% conversationally, and now I need to move anyway. I'm going to be 10 hours at sea today. Would I arrive at my destination with fully charged batteries or partially charged? What would just the engines, no generator, how would that go?
Yeah, typically when we go and say, like, if we're just moving 20, 30 miles down in the Bahamas, and say like we get up and it's like, say they're at 30%. We move that 20, 30 miles, we're full.
Wow. That's the future. I mean, to me, it is the future. So it's very nice that you chose Marlow to be the boat to do this to, because the ice maker's clicking over there. My opinion is this will happen to all of them over a period of time.
Oh, yes.
We've got approaching 400 boats out there, and you're the first one that I know of that did a major refit, to everything electric inside of it. And I want to applaud you, because I think I've already walked through the boat. I think you've done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, well, like I said before, I mean, these boats, they're not disposable. You get into a lot of brands and they're disposable. And what we loved about this boat was its sea-keeping ability, because we actually cruise and use the boat. And that's I think the difference for people that are serious about cruising, you want a vessel like this underneath you.
Yeah, we're tied up dockside right now in a very busy location with a boat passing us, it seems like every 2 seconds. You're going to get boat wake right here, and I'm very comfortable. Where are we, and why did you choose right here?
Oh, we're here in Fort Lauderdale, right off of Las Olas, and I think that pretty much says it all. This is probably one of the best places to keep a boat, probably in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Right. And how many people do you figure pass by on a weekly basis, knock on the door and say, "That's beautiful," or "What is that?" or "Can I have one?"
Yeah. Well, we've been having our bright work redone for this season, and the gentleman that's doing the bright work, he says he probably gets 4 or 5 people a week that stop and want to know about the boat and what it's all about. Because we probably have I don't know, a couple thousand people walking by here.
Yes, nonstop traffic behind us,
Yeah.
including obviously you take care of your boat. You've got your detailer working on here on a Sunday. So,
Right.
I mean, this is a very nice boat. You've done an amazing job with it. I saw it before you've bought it, and I've been here. This is my second time here. 10 out of 10. You've done an amazing job.
Oh, thank you.
Let's ask, what's your boating experience? Where have you cruised? What have you done? Like, we may be talking to somebody who's only done lake boating and has run a 35-footer and is scared to go up, 15 feet, the insurance issues that people have. So how did you get to where you're at today?
Well, I think that's what this size boat makes so much sense, because you're still keeping under that envelope where insurance starts to get really
About 69 and a half feet. They're pushing captains as required. That's been a new thing with insurance industry.
And even as you go up, this is the 53C, and I think overall we're just short of 62. I think we're 61 and something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think especially if you can stay in those parameters, insurance gets a little bit easier. But I've boated my whole life. I grew up in Florida. I've done power boating and sailing.
So the one you had before this, what size was she?
Well, I've had my first boat was a 44 CSY sailboat, cutter rigged. That's back when I was 22, 23 years old. And then I've had, I don't know, tens of boats. I couldn't even tell you. And up to this boat, I think my largest was probably a 50-footer.
Okay.
My boat I keep back at home till recently was a 26 center console gauze built.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell anybody the same thing. We've got bow and stern thrusters on this boat. We have the twin engine. This boat doesn't move around like a 26-foot center console does,
right,
with a single engine. I can put this boat in places easier than I could my 26-footer.
Right. I hear that often.
Yeah. We've also got the yacht controller. So if I need to go and pick up fuel, it's nothing for me to go, because I can get the fuel just across the canal over here. I can take the boat myself with the yacht controller and go over there and get fuel.
Right. You single-hand it.
Single handle the boat,
Yeah.
and it's easy.
Yeah.
And like I say, they don't move around like a smaller boat.
When you were in the pre-purchase process, I'm sure it seemed bigger than what it was, and maybe it was a little scary, a lot of switches and buttons. How long until you were single-handling it by yourself with that yacht controller?
By the time I built up the, knowing what it was, probably a month, 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And where's been your favorite spot you've taken this boat? Like, if you could just hit the rewind button and easy button, 2 weeks of your life would be where right now?
It's funny, we were going through pictures the other day, and I still think our favorite spot's the Exumas. We love the Exumas. Mm-hmm. And you talk to cruisers from all over the world, because we've also, we got the chance last year or 2 years ago, to do a little cruising in the Mediterranean with some friends of ours around Palma. And that was absolutely gorgeous, and that was cool. We would like to do more of that. But talking to people from all around the world, a lot of them will come back and say their favorite place is the Exumas, because it is just magical.
It is. There's 17 different colors of water. It's one of the prettiest places I've ever been boating in my life.
No, it's...
and the tropical fish you can see if you go below, and then the history you can find.
And there's so much to do. And, and getting with a lot of the local cruisers around there and getting on the different apps makes a huge difference. So you know where to go and know how to stay connected to people.
So when you're in the Bahamas, a lot of people, maybe their experience is coming from a sport fish, and maybe their experience has come from a sailboat. Those are two totally different experiences. Right. One person might be doing backflips at 5 knots because they feel like they're flying, and one person might not want to go below 30 because they can't stand it. But then maybe they get retired or they sell a business, and now a diesel-powered luxury motor yacht's their thing. So let's pretend that's this. How do you cruise this once you're in the Bahamas? Maybe you make a fast passing across the Gulf Stream because it's rough. Maybe you never run fast. Tell us, how do you run the boat?
Depends.
Okay.
It depends. If time is not of concern and we've got a nice passage across, we'll 10 knot it across.
Okay.
If it's choppy, going to or from, we're gonna get across there.
You're gonna get up on plane.
Yeah,
She's playing at about 14.5, 15 knots.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's we don't run her hard, because we hold a lot of fuel. We hold 2,000 gallons.
That's a lot. This boat is standard. This vintage was a 1,500 gallon fuel tank. The original owner upgraded it to 2,000 gallons. It's something nice if you build a new Marlow. We're semi-custom. You have specific missions in mind. We will try to make that boat, 10 out of 10 all your missions.
Right.
We do reserve the right to say no to bad ideas. So if you wanted to make the whole entire thing a fuel tank, you might get a no on that one.
So, but what I find, typically I don't like to tip the tanks because we're just hauling a lot of fuel.
Right.
And you can get over to, say like we've made runs just straight from here to Nassau.
Okay.
And if we're 10 knotting it, it's 140 miles. It's going to take us 14 hours. If it used to be we could go to Chubb, but I guess Chubb's not open anymore to the public.
It went private. You can still use the docks, but you can't use the restaurant or the pools, my current understanding.
Okay. Which the pool was the best part of going
to Chubb. That was the best part of the whole Bahamas was that pool. The best pool in the Bahamas I've seen anyway.
But, going over to Bimini, I'm not a big fan of. So we'll typically bypass Bimini and go on in, unless we want to clear there for some reason. But, and then Nassau, the fuel prices really aren't that much difference than what we're paying here, maybe $1 more. And so we'll always tip, not tip the tank, but we'll, say I'll run 1,200 gallons. And that way I feel like I'm a pilot too, so we're always kind of conscious of the weight that we're pushing along.
Right.
And we find with 1,200 gallons, that can get us all down through the Exumas and back up to Nassau, and have plenty of, and we're talking months.
Yeah, especially when you're not having to run the generator 24/7.
Well, and not only, you think about, okay, say you were running your air conditioning all the time.
A gallon or two an hour, right? The generator.
Yeah, but not only that, okay, you need to change your oil, every 150 hours? Okay, so, that's going to get you a week if you're running 24/7. Are you going to run 24/7? Probably not, but those hours add up quick. We don't need to worry about any of that stuff. We just don't, and it's nice to not. What I always do, whether they need it or not, because we probably haven't put the hours on them. But when we service when I get back off a cruise, I always have everything serviced, and the oil's changed. I said, go ahead and do the generator and do all that too. And they're like, well, it's new. Why?
Right. So sometimes I deal with a lot of different people, right? Some people, they've got assistants and they've got captains and they've had that for hundreds of years and I don't get to know them. Some people become friends right away, but they don't have experience, so they have these fears. And a fear that I see a lot, somebody that comes from outboard experience, is I want to buy a boat I can afford, but I can't have more than 500 hours. Why can't I have more than 500 hours? Well, that's my experience and I just want anything less than that. I want less than 500 hours, less than 500 hours. So I know where that's coming from. That's coming from fear of prior experience with an outboard and maybe being depreciated after that or eating a lot of money after that. I think this boat does not have 500 hours on it. I think this boat has 5,000 hours on it, or 4,000 or 6,000, somewhere in that range, right? You bought it and put some time on it. How has it been owning a boat with more than 500 hours on it?
Well, we run the Cummins QSM 11s.
Okay.
And those are just bulletproof engines. As long as you don't overrun them, you run your EGTs too hot, you are good. These engines, I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name. It's in California, San Diego, which is kind of the guru for these motors. And I believe I was looking up when I was doing the research on these engines, that it's not untypical for these engines to go 50, 60,000 hours.
Right.
And
that's a commercial application. Somebody likely having the key on almost all the time and driving this sucker nonstop.
Yeah, almost continuous duty.
Right.
Yeah, and he's seen them where they've gone 100,000.
Wow.
And it's just, it's just maintaining the equipment. Here again, being from the aviation side, we always take care of our equipment.
Correct.
And because I don't see a lot of big difference between being up there or out there for a few hundred miles.
All right. No, totally understand. Totally understand. Let's see. So you've gone north, south. We talked about that. We talked about Marlow. How's your ownership experience been?
I tell you what, it's funny that this is not a new Marlow. This is an 06 Marlow. She looks new. Because we've had people, when we were coming down from New England this last year, and you end up running with the same pack of people.
You make friends. You travel in groups, right?
Well, and because mostly these are all captain boats, and they're moving their boats from New England down to Florida, and a lot of these guys are they're trying to run. They're out there trying to run, probably 150 to 200 miles a day. And so as we came into Cape May, we spent a couple days in Cape May and then came down and went inside the C&D and ran the canal down. And then couldn't get into, what's the town there? They had a big boat show.
Norfolk?
Not Norfolk.
No, that's right. It just was.
Annapolis. We couldn't get into Annapolis because of the boat show. So we hopped around a couple of places out on the barrier and then came down into Norfolk. And that's when you start, as you're coming down on the inside of Chesapeake, that's when you really start noticing the different boats that, okay, I'm running with them again today. I'm running with them. Then you get in and you go down to Coin Jock, and everybody runs to Coin Jock. And, that's when I was rafted off a big trawler. It was like a 90-something foot trawler, and I was rafted out on the outside of him because it was just, there were so many people in Coin Jock that day. And then you just start talking to the other captains and start making friends and start knowing people. And then you find out you've been running with them for probably a few days now before. Coin Jock's when everybody kind of gets together. And then from down Beaufort, and then you go into, trying to remember the different spots as we trickle down. And we were running into the same people as we got down to Hilton Head. And people would come over, we were running faster. We weren't just 10 knotting it, but we were probably running 15, 16 knots during the day. And it was just interesting. They would all come up and they started asking about the boat. They thought it was a brand new Marlow. And because you look at that semi-displacement look, and people don't expect you to be running, in and up at the same spots as they do.
Right. Our fastest one today, I think I saw 34 knots on one. That's the fastest I've been.
That's amazing.
So
that's nice.
And if you take care of it like you do with this, the average eye can't tell if it's new or used.
No, they don't. And it's just, and they really appreciate the brand. They understand what the brand is, and they appreciate the boat. And because it's a beautiful boat, they're absolutely gorgeous. And do I have to a little bit more work because of the bright work? Yeah, but I'll tell you what, I think it's
worth it.
It pays for itself all the time just for the way it looks.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So what are your future plans? You know, we're here today for the second time. You gonna get out of boating anytime soon? You gonna keep this boat forever? Go smaller? Go bigger? What are you thinking?
The problem we have right now is that we love it too much, and we want to extend what we're doing. We want to do more, and we have more friends and family that want to join and do this. So we're going to continue to cruise, and we're going to continue to cruise this boat. We are playing with the concept of selling this one and getting a bigger one. Okay. We've talked to you all possibly about building a new one. So my fiance and I were, Sean, we're going back and forth trying to figure out what we want to do. Do we want to, you know, completely build one from the way that we would want it, completely from scratch? That's really would be exciting, but we'll also look at, would it hamper our time of us getting out on the water? So, because I mean, we're getting ready here in, let's see, this is February now. We're going to be, well, we actually get married in April, the 1st of April, April 5th. And then the next week we'll be jumping on the boat and heading for the Exumas.
Well, I would say half or more than half of my clients are kind of like in the same spot as you. They start with the used Marlow first. They find out exactly what they want to change. Oftentimes they want to go bigger because more of their friends loved it than what they expected. And they go bigger, and that's a coin flip. Do they go used at that point in time, or do they buy new or build new? I would say most of them go new because they keep using their boat. We take, you know, a reasonable deposit to get the process rolling, and over a period of time, you're building your perfect boat, where we then sell your boat before the new one comes. So that happens a lot in my experience. When the camera's off, we'll talk more about all that stuff. But it's good to hear that you love the boat, you love boating, you're not getting out of boating.
No.
And the reason to change is because more people around you love it, and you want to be able to bring them in as well.
It was funny, I was sitting down and I placed a phone call into Ron Everett, Marine. He's the engineer that designed the system for this boat. And he's done, I was asking him the other day, I said, how many systems? He was responsible for the Horizon Cats, their design on their boats.
Their full Victron package. Yeah?
Full Victron package that they do from the factory now for them. And so I was discussing with him because, you know, we've discussed maybe doing a new boat. And I was saying, okay, for the systems I have on this boat, you know, what's changed? You know, has there been any big, you know, changes? And he says, no. He says, we're putting the identical system we put in your boat 2 years ago today. And I said, really? Right down to the panels, to the, you know, where I can draw down my amperage on my shore power. I didn't tell you about that, did I?
No, and maybe that's a good time for you to kind of show off a little bit what you have here.
Well, I don't know how many of your viewers have ever watched or ever had this issue where you go into a marina, you plug in your shore power cables, and you're tripping breakers, just tripping breakers.
Gets to 48 trips.
Right, you know, and
supposed to be 50 plus, but it gets to 48 trips for whatever reason.
So what I can do up here is I can actually dial down my system. Here again, this is all it's doing is just charging my batteries, right? So I just charge my batteries a little slower.
You're dialing down the amount it's gonna pull.
The amperage.
Right? It's like a game of tug of war, right? But I'm not gonna pull 50, I'm only gonna pull 40 because I realized at 48 it was tripping.
Right.
And I don't want to go out there and keep resetting a breaker.
Or you find out that they've got just a really bad electrical system in their marina, and I need to dial it all the way down to 30.
Right.
You know? And here again, all we're doing is just charging our batteries. And then this panel here is the panel that's the same panel I have on my phone or on my computer that I can actually dial into and make changes from my computer at home on this panel here.
Ooh, that's awesome.
If I had an issue, which I did have an operator issue at the beginning, we had headed over. We were clearing through Bimini, And before I left everything, I went through and we hadn't been out on the boat for a couple months, and I wanted to test the generator, make sure everything was firing up correctly before we left the slip here. And when I did that, I accidentally took the generator out of sequence.
Okay.
My fault. So me starting it and stopping it, I took it out of the auto start sequence, because the generator, if it sees that the voltage flow or the percentage, I can have it, it'll pick up either way. If it flows, so I'm trying to remember the voltage, it goes below, it'll auto start, or if it goes down to a certain percentage that I can set, it'll auto start. So we go all the way over to Bimini, and we've got, it's Sean and I, her 2 kids, and then there was, her son brought 2 of his friends. So we've got 6 of us on the boat, and the majority of them are teenagers, and they've got every TV
iPads
on,
are everywhere.
they're cooking. So I go ashore to clear us. We're anchored off, and I go ashore to clear us through customs. And of course, it wasn't customs, it was the immigration. He was at the other end of the island, and I have to wait for like 2 or 3 hours. And ended up being dark by this time. So I'm in the tender. I ended up leaving. Kind of know my way around there enough to navigate it in the dark. Come back, and I can see this boat sitting offshore, every light on, everything is on. And we have a boat deck that we pull our tender up and down on, which takes a lot of power. And I get out there. So I would say by the time we had probably been sitting there for probably about 6 hours with everything on,
Right.
and cooking and AC and everything.
So the engines were charging while you were going.
Yep.
When I turned those off, now I had nothing going on.
Nothing
and I
going
had
on.
no safety net of a generator to turn on once I hit a certain.
Unbeknownst to me.
Yeah, once I heard a certain level, either
Right.
not enough power in the bucket or too much draw,
Correct.
it wasn't gonna start itself.
So I go and start to put the tender back on the boat deck. And that takes a lot of energy.
For sure.
And hadn't kind of factored that one in to my calculations. But here again, I wasn't watching my display, wasn't even thinking about it. It's always just auto started and not a big deal, right? So we start, pull the tender up, get it on the cradle, put it away, start to go down, and we go dark.
Whole ship.
The whole ship. And I'm like, what happened? Okay, what happened? Why didn't the generator start? Well, what it was is the voltage got too low, because we just had that big power consumption of the crane pulling up the tender. We run a 14-foot tender on this boat,
Right.
with a 60 or 70 horsepower Honda. And so my first thing is I call Ron, the engineer, say, we got a problem. And what is so cool, since we have our Starlink, he's able to dial into the boat and tell me what to do to get the voltage back to make everything start again.
Awesome.
And so, and then he then told me what I did wrong.
So he could see the generator didn't start.
It was
He could
out of
see it didn't go,
sequence,
yeah.
right? It was out of sequence, and it was like, yep. And so,
Now, did you just have to start the generator that fixed the problem, or did you also have to go back and resequence it?
no, once we started the generator, got everything, our system back up, I then went back in, and I think he may have actually sequenced it from remotely.
Wow.
But I could have done it. Now they
So you-
did an upgrade to this, and I had the upgrade done, and it's a lot harder to do that now.
A lot harder to get it out of sequence.
Correct.
So can you start your generator remotely?
Yep.
Can you change your air conditioning status remotely? Like if it was set at 78, can I make it 72?
I don't know if Victron offers. I don't have it.
Okay.
I know that they've, like I say, all my bilge pumps, all the refrigeration. I'd have to ask to see if we can do something with the ACs. I'm not sure about that.
I know it can be done. I don't know if it can be done by Victron, because I had a client who had a software to the Dometic chillers that would allow it to be remote controlled.
That would be cool.
He preferred to keep it at 78 degrees when he wasn't here, which is basically a dehumidify setting, and
Right.
would fly in from Ohio before he got in the airplane to set it down, so it was ready to go when he showed up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what else would you like to chat about? Is there anything else that we haven't covered? Either Brian, if you want to throw a pumpkin on the table, or Tom, if you have anything.
No, I mean, we love the boats. We love their sea keeping. I think what we did, it just makes boating easier.
Do you have zero-speed stabilizers or a gyro on the boat?
We do have stabilizers. We've got Naiad, but they're not zero speed.
Okay. And do you turn them on every time you go out?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Do you use them when you're anchored out?
No.
Okay, so how can the boat be stable if you're not using your stabilizers while you're anchored out?
Well, the 53C, I think, would be equivalent to kind of like what the 57 or 58E, because of our length and beam. This beam on this boat is 18.2, and this boat doesn't move a lot. She's solid in the water. You know, have we had passages that, you know, where we're taking a 8-footer on the beam? Yeah. Yeah, and that's not going to be comfortable in most boats.
The reason why the boat's stable with the stabilizers off is weights and balances as it was made from the original manufacturer, which is, you know, Marlow Yachts. We try to keep a lot of the weight down low. We try to not put a lot of weight up high. We have a wider beam boat at 18 and change, like you talked about, and we have hard chines on the side and 2 Velocijet strut keels. This boat probably tracks better than a lot of boats you've been on as well.
Oh, yeah.
You probably can use your autopilot in far rougher conditions than maybe you could have in other boats, because it tracks very true.
We've never not been able to use our autopilot.
That's exactly a statement that I say, but I didn't want to say that without you coming out with it first. I've never had to turn my autopilot off in a following sea in a Marlow Explorer. I have had to on many other boats where I am predictive steering what's going to happen, and the autopilot can't do that. So.
Yeah. Matter of fact, you know, we've been in some rough weather off Cape May. We've been, you know, you're going to run into weather every once in a while, and I mean, unless I'm sitting there and just hitting the controller, you know, we've got a remote too. I can run from anywhere in the boat, but unless we're trying to tack in some bad weather, but here again, I'm still leaving the autopilot on.
Right. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Brian, thank you for being behind the camera as always. Is there anything you wanted to add? Anything you wanted us to ask?
I think you guys covered it.
I think we got it all. I appreciate your time today. Thanks for being part of the Marlow family. I hope I'm going to see you at the Rendezvous coming up here this spring. It's a great time. We have a good event. It's a great way for Marlow owners to meet other Marlow owners and go cruising together. You'll see yourself going up following the ducks as it warms up north, and coming back down when it gets too hot. We see that quite a bit. I don't see what you've done to this boat quite a bit, and that's why I wanted to bring it here today. I think you were a trendsetter. I think this is what's going to happen to all of our older boats over time, and I'm excited about it because it really does bring a lot more current tech into a boat that will outlast what other boats will, meaning the engines are going to be great, the fuel tanks, the water tanks, the boat's going to be great, but you're going to have to replace those old batteries. So if you're going to do that, why not bring it into current tech and take the other advantages with that? You know, all of the things you can do from lack of generator use, I think is really nice, because it's not just about the fuel consumption. The boat's also quieter when the generator is not running, and that's more relaxation. And a lot of my clients are out there to relax and recharge. They're maybe not fully retired yet. And the point is, I want to relax and recharge and get back to who I am as a human before I go back to the rat race and start over again at the end of my trip. And I see that often. So thank you again for what you're doing, because this boat's stunning.
Oh, thank you.
It really is.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time today.
Appreciate it.
Captain Eric Gervais with Everything Yachting. If you like what you've seen, subscribe, check us out, or see us at a boat show coming up soon. Thanks again. Thanks for joining us at Everything Yachting. I hope you've enjoyed diving into the yachting world today. If you've enjoyed or learned something, please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more. Until next time, my friends, healthy families, happy memories, and may fair winds and smooth seas guide your future yachting adventures.